has been written and it should post on the website tomorrow. I wanted to kind of let you guys know, if anybody's new here, there are question cards over there during this part of the presentation. We will be accepting questions. Fill them out. You can drop them off over here. If any time you have an additional question, you can write it off and drop them off over here. At the end of the meeting, there will be a public comment period. If you have a comment, you need to write out a comment card and place it over here, and we will take those at the end of the meeting. You'll have about 2 minutes to present. Wanted to let you know that our role, this is actually our second meeting regarding the terminal project, and our role as a neighborhood council is advisory to the City of Los Angeles. That's actually our role. And it's to get stakeholder engagement, to help you guys have access to information and resources, but to engage the community in issues that matter to them. We cannot approve or disapprove a project or anything, actually. We are only advisory, but we can write letters and community impact statements on behalf of the stakeholders regarding their concerns. Those are the things we can do, just to let you know our parameters. We know that a lot of you have questions. We're going to monitor the questions to avoid duplicates, but try to ensure that every question gets answered this evening. At the end of the presentation, we've set aside 10 minutes for public comment, allowing 2 minutes per person. Please note, however, that a comment does not necessarily guarantee you a response. It really is just a comment that you want to make to the board. We've invited these people here to be our guests with a desire to hear from them and have our questions answered and better understand the process surrounding the Aliso Canyon project. We understand that this is a highly charged issue, but in order for the meeting to be most effective, we expect all the participants, stakeholders, to be orderly, courteous, and respectful throughout the meeting. If anyone creates a disruption in the meeting, they'll be asked to leave in order for the meeting to continue disruption-free for the benefit of the rest of the stakeholders, which I'm sure you all appreciate. So I'm going to introduce Eric. He is our ad hoc chair for this project, and he's going to do the introductions.
All right, thank you very much, Paula, and thank you everybody for coming. It's a great turnout, and thank you for your patience. We have some very special guests here for you to kind of go over the process of the application for the terminal company's efforts to... Thank you. Thank you for that. Before that though, regarding the speaker card or the question cards, if you have any more, just raise it up and Mr. Alex Kim will come around and collect it for you, so you don't have to be walking around during the meeting. So from our LA County Supervisor's Office, we have Field Deputy Mr. Jared DeGonia, along with Mr. Paul McCarthy. He is from the Department of Regional Planning. They are going to go over the application process in detail for us, and they're going to present a slideshow for you. And we're going to have a PDF of that slideshow on our website this week as well, so if you need to review it. We also have Ms. Rosalba Gonzalez from State Senator Pavley's office. They recently passed a legislation, SB4, regarding fracking. She's going to go over that for us. And we also have Mr. Andre Hollings from our Assemblyman Scott Wilkes' office. He's going to go over some updates, community updates, as well as Mr. Wilkes' position on fracking. So, if you're ready, let's begin.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Jared DeGonia. I serve as Supervisor Mike Antonovich as San Fernando Valley Field Deputy. Our office, for those of you who don't know, we're right there. Yes, sir?
No, I was going to have this question.
Okay. Our office is right there on the corner of Chatsworth and Plummer, Topanga Canyon and Plummer. And so I am your local deputy to the supervisor. I'm going to keep my opening comments extremely brief and turn it over to Mr. McCarthy's presentation. The only thing I wanted to I'll save a lot of my comments for the question and answer. The purpose of the presentation tonight is we wanted to keep this presentation strictly to the county's approval process under the California Environmental Quality Act, under CEQA. And we want any discussions, there's not any discussions regarding fracking, oil drilling policy in general, is really not a part of this presentation. It is very specific to the county's permitting process. And in that, hopefully in that presentation, you'll have a better understanding of what the county's permitting process is, and then we'll take a question and answers. And then that is going to get set up.
unacceptable to keep us from speaking to the...
That's not a, if you have a question, you have to write it down.
I,
It's loaded up here. Right now. Right.
I'll just do it. All right, I'm from the Los Angeles County Department of Regional Planning. Now, those of you who live in the city of Los Angeles, which is just about all of you, have your own planning department, and your city council takes care of the final approval on all planning matters within the city's jurisdiction. In the county of Los Angeles, we represent the areas. I used to always describe this with regard to the Thomas Guide. I don't know if people even have the Thomas Guide anymore these days, but the areas that are yellow in the Thomas Guides are all under the county's jurisdiction. They're called unincorporated areas. So the county planning department administers the unincorporated areas. We have a lot of territory north of you, up in the Santa Clarita area, and we have just about all of the Antelope Valley except for the cities of Palmdale and Lancaster. Our jurisdiction is spread throughout the county. We have areas, large areas in the Santa Monica Mountains. East Los Angeles is part of our jurisdiction. So we represent about, we provide planning services for about 1 million people here in the county. So we have a very large jurisdiction and a lot of diverse interests. So we were meeting the other night on a landfill issue. We have this issue. I was up in the Kern County area on joint issues with Kern County planning relating to dust and renewable energy, solar and wind. So we're dealing with a lot of issues right now, and it's interesting. It never gets boring. Every day really is different when you're in the planning department, because nothing stays static for very long. Now, in this particular case, we have, and of course I can't see the screen, but we have the Termo project, and they are proposing the installation of 3 well pads. And that would be what you would see on the surface, would be 3 well pads. And those pads would then each have about, if I understand the application correctly, about 4 spokes underground. So it'll be 12 new wells. The facility up there is all within the gas company's ownership, and they've been there for quite some time doing oil drilling in that vicinity. I believe the facility opened up originally in 1933. Now, the portions of the area on the hillside are designated by the County of Los Angeles as significant ecological areas. And so that means that if you're going to develop it with just about anything, you would have to come into us and ask for approval of a conditional use permit. And we call them SEAs, because significant ecological area is a big term. So the SEAs do again require this conditional use permit process. And we have all the applications reviewed, and we'll get into this a little more detail in a moment, by a committee called CTAC, and that's the Significant Ecological Area Technical Advisory Committee. And you will all be expected to memorize that. We'll be giving you a blue book test at the end of tonight's presentation. The applicant's proposal has been reviewed by that committee, and it consists of volunteers, very much similar to your town council. They don't get paid; they're all volunteer biologists, and they take a look at all of the applications for development within the SEAs anywhere in the county. Now, what they noticed was this particular project does involve a little widening of some access roads. Most of the access has already been graded. Most of it's been paved, not all. But there are some areas that have been hit by erosion that would have to be upgraded as a part of the project. Of particular interest to the CTAC committee would be the proposal to prune or trim about 131 oak trees up there on the hill. Potential removal of only 1 oak tree. They're not sure if that would be necessary, but they're putting that in just in case. The total area for impacts to be about 5.3 acres. That's 3 acres for the well pads and 2.3 for the roadwork. So the proposal is being reviewed at this time. This is just a part of the case file I have brought with me, but there was some rumors going through the neighborhood that the permits were going to be issued within 30 days, and as I told a few members of the board at a meeting we had with them last week, that I've been with the county for 45 years, and the county has never done anything in 30 days. So don't panic. We're not going to change that. That's part of our religion. So we're not changing that. Now, part of the process is that we deem the application. We have to deem the application complete. If it's going to go to a public hearing, it has to be deemed complete. And at that point, we then start to send it out to the county departments for comments, and they have 30 days to comment. And we review the site plans and just in general whether or not we feel we're ready to go to showtime, really, to the Planning Commission. Now, let me make it clear before I get into the detail here on the environmental process. The environmental process is regulated by the California Environmental Quality Act. And that law applies equally in the city of Los Angeles, the city of Long Beach, the city of Glendale, the unincorporated areas of Los Angeles County. It applies statewide. And feds in federal territory, the National Forest, they have another very similar, almost identical piece of legislation called NEPA. So when you hand in any proposal for a project, you have to go through a process in which it is evaluated to determine what kind of a document must be prepared to accommodate that particular project. Now, we at the staff level will make a recommendation that document A be adopted by the commission or document B be adopted by the commission. But we can be overruled. The commission doesn't have to go along with us. When the Planning Commission takes final action on the proposal, it would take two actions. One would be to approve or deny the application, and if it's going to approve, then the second would be to certify the environmental impact report. That decision can be appealed to the Board of Supervisors within 15 days after the action of the Planning Commission. The staff will announce the date, the termination date of that appeal period at that point, right at the hearing. With regard to the hearings, we have a website, and the public hearings are broadcast live on the website during the daytime. They are usually at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. And then you can see on the website during after hours, obviously, if you come home from work and you missed the public hearing. Now, before we get to the public hearing, we'll go back to the environmental process. We have to determine whether a project is categorically exempt, meaning there's no need to do any environmental review, or whether it might qualify for what they call a negative declaration. And a negative declaration means it's a little bit more complicated, but it means that basically it does not have major environmental impacts. A lot of the terminology is really mirrors what you see in medicine. If your doctor comes back and your tests are positive, that's not good. If your tests come back and they're negative, that's good. It means you're not sick. So if a negative declaration comes out of the project, that is a simpler process. It nonetheless goes to all the county departments for review and for comment. The initial study goes to that review process for 30 to 60 days, depending on how long they need to review it. Before we at regional planning, it all comes back to us, and then we at regional planning will make a determination as to whether or not, as to which document we wish we can move forward with. There's another document that has ND in it. It's called a mitigated negative declaration, very similar to an ND, except that the determination is that certain conditions need to be imposed in order to mitigate the potential negative environmental impacts. And then the EIR would be required if we believe there's potential for significant impacts and significant unmitigatable impacts. Then we want a more detailed discussion. So we get to the EIR process. If we decided that there was going to be an environmental impact report, then a consultant has to be hired to prepare that document. And how long the preparation of that document would take is hard to predict. When we had the recession and most of the EIR preparers were looking for work, that really shortened the preparation time. The economy's picking up, the backlogs for some of these companies are picking up, so it might take a little longer to get an environmental impact report prepared today. But it's not uncommon. Once the matter goes to the consultant to prepare an environmental impact report, if this matter should go that route, it is not uncommon for that process alone to take 1 year. It's very common, 1 year. This meeting, in some respects, mirrors what we would call a scoping meeting. And so if we announce that we're going to have an EIR process, we issue a notice of preparation, and that goes out, and then we can conduct a scoping meeting in which the citizenry would get to come forward in a presentation like this, except that it will not be run by the town council or the neighborhood council. It would be run by the county. And you would then say, I'm concerned about issue X and issue Y and issue Z as a potential environmental issue. I want this issue discussed in the EIR. And that is all done before the environmental consultants start their work. And then they start to work around what we have told them, what the staff has told them that they want evaluated, and what you have told them what you want evaluated in the scoping meetings. Now, once an environmental impact report has been prepared, we distribute the EIR for public review. It's put up on the website. It'll be put into your local libraries. We can give them here to the neighborhood council. We'll get them out there, and it's usually for about a 45-day period. We can, if there's indications people want to go longer, we can go to 60 days on that. So you see what I mean? We've already got 30 to 60 days for circulation of county departments, and a year for the EIR to get prepared. We don't do anything in 30 days. Everything goes in months and almost in years. There are a couple of processes we have that are relatively new to the county, and some of you might not be familiar with it. Many people in the county jurisdiction are not quite familiar with it yet because it's only been the last year or two we've started this. But I was the county's first hearing examiner. And so I would go out to the communities at night, Malibu, Pepperdine, Marine Del Rey, up to Santa Clarita, and take testimony on the EIR, on the draft EIR after it is distributed to the public. And so we try to give the public a week or two to look at the EIR and then come in with comments at these hearing examiner meetings, and then they prepare those comments. A response to every comment you would make at that hearing examiner hearing must be be included in the final EIR. So it cannot be ignored. There must be a response. And then the final EIR is packaged up and given to the Planning Commission, so then they have another month or two before the hearing to review it. And then the Planning Commission conducts a hearing on the entire matter, on the proposal and the EIR. And again, if the Planning Commission were to decide to approve the matter, they would have to again, approve it and then certify the EIR. If they were going to deny it, of course, they would not be certifying the EIR. And that decision is appealable to, again, to the Board of Supervisors. And ultimately, beyond them, we have a fair number of cases that wind up in litigation, wind up in court after the Board of Supervisors has taken action. So the Terminal's timeline right now, they're working on their initial study. They got a lot of work to do on that before we can even begin to circulate to the county departments. We have made no determination with regard to negative deck, MMD, or EIR at this time. I just want everyone to relax if you think that something's going to be handed in, accomplished or approved between now and Labor Day and now and Christmas. It's not going to happen. And that would conclude my remarks.
She said at the end. Because I said I want to make some comments.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Degonia. Next, we will have Ms. Rosalba Gonzalez from Senator Pavley's office.
Let me get comfortable for a second. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Rosalba Gonzalez, and I'm with Senator Fran Pavley's office. And I know that, I'm sorry, Mr. McCarthy spoke on the county's process, and I thank the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council for inviting me to speak on behalf of Senator Pavley tonight regarding this issue. But it is an issue that is still in process, and we will wait until the draft EIR is sent out for public comment to comment on that, because it is something that we can't really interfere with, because the company has the right to go through the process. So that's where Senator Pavley stands on that. In terms of fracking and how that works and what's going on with SB4, if it even applies here, which I'm not sure if that does, if they've made that effort. Senator Pavley's SB4 dealt with fracking regulations. It's not a ban, it's not a moratorium, but there were some safeguards that went into place this year. If there is a company, oil company, that is using fracking techniques, whether it's hydraulic fracking or acidization, they have to report that to their local neighbors and comply with groundwater testing and other environmental things that they need to disclose to the local agencies that where they are doing that work. So that's what SB4 is doing right now. What the Department of, Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources is doing right now is they are conducting public hearings throughout the state of California, listening to everybody about what regulations are needed to be in place in order to make sure that fracking is safe and done responsibly in the state of California. So that is what Dogger is doing right now. And they will come out July 1st of 2015 with those regulations, and from then on, companies will have to comply with those regulations. Right now, they have 3 regulations and a few more that they need to comply by, which again are emergency regulations that are in place right now. So if you have any questions, I did bring a few fact sheets on what SB4 does and what hydraulic fracturing is in California. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact our office. We will be monitoring the situation, and Senator Pavley will comment when it's appropriate.
All right, thank you very much. We will also have, after on Mr. Hollings, we have a representative from Termo Company who will also be taking questions and do a brief introduction. But right now, Mr. Hollings from Assemblyman Wool's office.
Much like Rizola's comments, it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Assemblyman Wilk this evening. Much as she stated, it will take up to, possibly even longer, but up to a year for the EIR to come out. So prior to that, as the gentleman stated, there are a variety of hoops to jump through for the company. So until that time, that's when a push can be undertaken to make sure that everything is done safely, equitably, to make sure that your quality of life does not change. And obviously that's the entire point of this meeting. She adequately explained with Senator Pavley being the author of SB 4, she gave a wonderful explanation of the bill. It really centers on SB 4 making sure that there is a peer-reviewed scientific study of any type of well injection, fracking, etc. But as she stated, it is not completely clear at the moment because the process is just now beginning to be underway for the Aliso Canyon, possible Aliso Canyon project. It's not completely clear if SB 4 will be brought to bear on this. So until the AR process is fully underway and then is brought out to the public, there's nothing definitive that can be said, and nothing definitive, legislatively speaking, with respect to any legislative office, that can be done to halt the project. So now is really your opportunity while that process is going on to do all that you can do to make sure your quality of life is maintained. So with that, I will pass the mic to Jared, or what do I go for him?
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, Rizal wants to piggyback.
Okay.
The one thing I want to emphasize about SB4 is that the oil company, if they are going to do fracking, if they're going to do hydraulic or acidize their well, they must disclose that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have to disclose that to the public. That is what SB4 guarantees. So if they will be doing that type of well stimulation, they must notify the public. So they can't get around that.
Thank you very much. Now we also have Mr. Ralph Combs from the Termo Company. Do you have a brief introduction?
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the government representatives up here to help us understand this complex process. Real briefly, thank you also to you all for coming out and being eager to learn about this project and be willing to share your views on this project. I appreciate it. So briefly, my name is Ralph Combs. I'm the project manager for Termo's North Aliso Canyon project. Note that the project is called North Aliso Canyon. Apparently there was some confusion because you have an Aliso Canyon Park. It has nothing to do with Aliso Canyon Park. And the project is in the mountains north of Porter Ranch on the other side of the ridge. Okay? So briefly, Termo is a family-owned company founded by my great-grandfather in Long Beach in 1933. And we did not survive 80 years of business by being cavalier, sloppy, or unsafe. We approach everything we do with integrity and a desire to do the right thing. We are proposing to add 3 new pads, each about 1.5 acres in size, and up to 12 new wells. There may be less than that, but there will not be more than 12 wells. We will drill 1 exploratory well, and we'll see what happens. We won't build the 3 pads. We'll build 1 pad, drill 1 well, and see what happens. And that would be done over about a 6-year period if we drilled all 12 wells. The 3 proposed well pad locations are all on the other side of the ridge from Porter Ranch, and each has been intentionally located to avoid impacts on native plants and wildlife. The project uses existing infrastructure, including existing roads, our existing pipeline network, our existing facilities, and our existing tank farm. The only thing being built would be the pumping units, be the only infrastructure put in. and so pipeline to connect to the tank farm. The project occurs entirely on private property and will have no effect on public recreation. The oil field has been continuously producing oil since 1938. We are proposing what is referred to as conventional drilling, so there is no fracking. Okay? We are not proposing fracking as part of this project. The proposed drilling does not pose a threat to groundwater, and in fact, the site is not located over a groundwater basin. The project uses electric motors for the wells to eliminate air emissions. The project is not related to the work currently I want to make sure I'm really clear on this point. The project is not related to the work currently being done by the gas company. All the activity that you see going on right now has nothing to do with Termo's project. The only thing that we have done is the preparation of the application for the county. As was made clear, we are in the very beginning of a long public process. The county will lead their own thorough review of the project and host public meetings. In addition, we are hosting an open house on September 9th from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Porter Valley Country Club. That is going to be the first of several meetings. I anticipate being back here next month, the month after that, and the month after that. Happy to meet with small groups of people, and we will be around. We will continue to do open houses as well, probably at the library as we go forward. At that open house, you will have a chance to have your questions answered by our technical specialist, from engineering to oil production to environmental stewardship and safety, and we hope that you will come to the open house. We are confident that the more you know and understand about this project, the better you will be able to differentiate the facts from the hype. And I think I'll just leave it right there for the moment and go ahead and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I also wanted to let you know that we have a copy of the SB4 legislation on our website, prnc.org, if you'd like to reference that, as well as some other materials. But if you have any other requests for documents that you'd like posted, just let us know. Okay, we will go to the questions now. First question is actually for the Termo company. How far is the oil drilling from the nearest residence, and where is this located? I believe you covered some of that, though.
Okay, so the closest resident to the project is site number 2, 1.65 miles. And this is the new operations. I want to be clear about new and existing. All right, so that is the West Via Urbino Street, right up there on the west side of Porter Ranch. That's the closest point, 1.65 miles. And that's over the hill, 1.65 miles as the crow flies over the hill and down.
We have another question from the same stakeholder. What is the construction going on now at the end of Tampa, and is it related to your project?
Would you like me to answer that question again?
If you can just repeat it.
Okay, so again, and I know people have been frustrated about this, and I think part of the confusion actually is my fault. When I was at the meeting on April 1st, I put up a map, which the county used in their presentation here, that identified the gas company on some of those maps. And we are separate from the gas company. Nothing that is going on right now has anything to do with Termo. I apologize for the confusion. It has, of course, been stirred a bit by the newspaper articles and social media, but none of the activity at the end of Tampa has anything to do with Termo's project. Thank you.
Okay, next question. This might be directed towards Mr. McCarthy, how do we get a copy of the EIR? Is that possible?
The EIR, when it will be noticed and distributing and advertising for the public hearing and letting everyone know that it's available. So we'll send out an ad indicating that the public hearing is going to take place on a certain date, and the EIR will be available on the website. We'll have it available, we'll make it available to these groups. Usually in this day and age, people want discs, they want a CD, and we have lots of them made up and distributed, but we can distribute hard copies as well. The libraries and those, we'll always put the hard copy in the library.
Great, thank you. Next question for Mr. Gonzalez. It's actually asking for comment. In the light of the fracking ban, city and statewide, and the state and federal mandates, it would be counterproductive to expand and or increase wells in Aliso Canyon. We must, as a state, be off fossil fuels within the decade. Please comment.
Could you repeat it?
Sure. In light of the fracking ban, both city and statewide, I don't believe it's statewide, and the state and federal mandates, it would be counterproductive to expand and or increase wells in Aliso Canyon. We must, as a state, be off fossil fuels within the decade. Please comment.
Well, Senator Pavley is the author of AB 32, so I know she's a good proponent for reducing greenhouse emissions and everything, and lowering our dependence on oil. So hopefully you will continue to join her in that fight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this next question for Supervisor Antonivich's office, Mr. Dagonia. Was the application approved by the senator, or does she have anything to do with that process?
No, the application, since it's a county unincorporated area, is strictly a County of Los Angeles matter. The state senator's jurisdiction does not, she doesn't have the purview over a land use matter with LA County. Some statewide guidelines and statewide laws certainly have an impact on all projects and all applications, but in this particular specific application, no.
Thank you. Next question is for the Thermo Company. Is there any guarantee that oil from the proposed wells will be sold locally?
I'm assuming you mean maybe gasoline that's refined from the oil?
Maybe you can touch on the process.
The oil is sold to a purchaser, usually refinery down in Carson or in the LA basin. About 50% of a barrel of crude oil goes towards gasoline, so there's a very good chance that it will make it back up here to your pump.
I don't think that really answered my question. Am I allowed to make a...
Sure, no, we'll...
We will have a period of public comments. Next question is for the Thermo Company. How far from the wellhead can they drill horizontally? FAQ sheets show 7,000 vertical, more than a mile. How far horizontally, and is this distance regulated?
Okay, we are not drilling horizontal wells. When people think of horizontal wells, I think they often think of North Dakota. This is a vertical well, vertical conventional well. It goes down like this. It might have a little bit of a kick, you know, because we deliberately chose clear areas up there where we wouldn't have to grade, where we wouldn't have to cut down oak trees. So we might have to drill directionally a little bit. But horizontal means going down like this a mile and going like this a mile. We are not doing that.
Thank you. They didn't indicate who this question was for, but I will read it. What's the incentive for allowing any further drilling at the site? Has any fracking ever occurred at the site, and most likely for Thermo Company?
So the first part of the question is, what incentive is there for us to drill at the site?
Yes. For allowing any further drilling at the site.
What incentive is there for the public or the regulators to allow any more drilling?
For the stakeholders, let's-
What incentive is there for the stakeholders to allow any more drilling?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the answer.
Hey, you guys, we can't.
No, it's okay. You know, the incentive is that we all use a lot of oil in California. A lot of oil. We've been fortunate enough that, you know, we drive to work, we take our kids to school. So the incentive is for American energy independence, for California energy independence, for the well-being of our economy, and to wean ourselves off of imports. What was the second part of the question, please?
Second part was, has any fracking ever occurred at the site?
Yes, fracking has occurred up there. Hydraulic fracturing has taken place. 2 wells up there, one in 2007 and one in 2011. The one thing I want to say about that is that neither one of those wells, our best performing well up there had no well stimulation whatsoever. And while we're on the topic of fracking, somebody in a previous question said there's a fracking ban. There is no ban in California on hydraulic fracturing or other well stimulation techniques, and there is no ban in the city of Los Angeles on hydraulic fracturing either.
Thank you. Next question is for Supervisor's Office. How many feet away, I'm not exactly sure what this question is asking, but I'll read it. How many feet away from the oil site for the notification of fracking and acidizing?
I'll take that from planning.
Thank you.
We go 1,000 feet from the exterior boundary of the subject property, which would be the exterior boundary of the gas company ownership,
Thank you. Rosalba?
in terms of our public notification.
Thank you.
And SB4, it requires 1,500.
According to SB4, it requires 1,500 feet?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next question for Mr. McCarthy. Does DOGGR, the Department of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources, have the authority to waive fracking or acidizing permits from the CEQA process, CEQA? CEQA is California Environmental Quality Act, which is a process for making new developments transparent and accountable to the environmental law. This includes requiring an environmental impact report.
DOGGR has no authority to waive CEQA requirements. CEQA remains in effect for all projects in the state of California. Now, it could be that CEQA might make a determination that a particular project wasn't categorically exempt at their level. But as far as our process, they have no ability to intervene and tell us what to conclude, what the conclusion of our environmental assessment should be.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Is this working?
There you
Much
go.
better. And again, just to repeat again, that SB4 DOGGR is going around the state of California taking public hearings on the final regulations for SB4. So everybody has the ability to comment, they take written comments, and again, for any type of public hearing that the government conducts, there must be a response to each comment. So if you have any comments regarding that, please feel free to reach DOGGR, and if you need to do that, you can need that information, you can reach me or Andre, and we'll be more than happy to provide you that information.
Thank you.
And as we mentioned to the board members at the last week's meeting, I pointed that out to them. If you go if you Google California Department of Conservation, right now that's right on their front page, the information about the state's current efforts to strengthen the regulation of fracking operations.
Yeah, so we have a link to that on our website under the oil post. Next question is for Mr. McCarthy again. I believe you touched on this, but for clarification, is an EIR required at this time, or is that to be determined? Termo states in their literature that CTAC unanimously approved the project, finding it consistent with the goals and objectives of the SEA program. Ms. McCarthy appears to state this is pending. Who is correct?
The issue is pending. No determination has been made. And I just want to add, there was a question earlier about when would we see the EIR. The same process would apply if it was a negative declaration or a mitigated negative declaration or an EIR. We send it out to we put it on the website, we send it out to the libraries, and we mention in the notification it would go to all the property owners that it's now available for public review. So that notification process is applicable whether it's a negative declaration, a mitigated negative declaration, or an environmental impact report.
Okay, there's a second part to that question, but I'm sure this is to be determined, but what impact, traffic, smell, noise, seismic, blight, fire hazard, and how long, what is the lifespan?
That would be, that's a part of the subject of the review. In other words, we determine, or make an attempt to determine whether or not those impacts rise to certain levels. And so they cross certain thresholds. Okay, maybe it's an ND, or maybe it's a mitigated, neg-dec, or an EIR. So if it were an EIR, all of that would be evaluated in great detail.
Okay, thank you. The next is a general question. What makes this safe? What is to prevent Termo from making missteps like what happened with the chemical spill in Virginia that poisoned the water for such a long time? Who is the watchdog?
DOGGR is the agency at the state level which is out there in the field monitoring the activities in the oil fields.
Thank you. Sure.
It's a good question. You know, safety is foremost in everything we do. Our highest priority is the safety of our employees, our communities, and our environment. DOGGR has extremely strict regulations. We're also subject to OSHA regulations. We're subject to AQMD. We're subject to the EPA. So for example, in regards to the chemical spill, you have full containment for a crude oil tank that can handle the total capacity of that crude oil tank, plus extra volume, plus a major rain event. So you engineer additional safety into the system.
Thank you. And the next question, again, is for the Termo company. What community benefits have you planned for the community, and how can we contact you regarding this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and you know, we've operated up there since 1989, very quietly, going about our job without any issues or notice. And honestly, we should have been more involved in the community. We are very involved in the communities where our employees live, and very supportive of our employees' kids. Scholarships and science trips and Boy Scouts and 4-H and those type of things. But that was a mistake on our part, and it's something we've been trying to rectify. I have several ideas about how to support the community. I think I really would like to work with the fire department and see what additional resources they may need. But that is something that's open for discussion, and I'm very open for ideas on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question also is for Termo company. When hydraulic fracturing was used in Porter Ranch, which chemicals were used? And have you performed any study to confirm whether or not these chemicals are in the water supply in Porter Ranch?
It's a good question. So there's no connection in the groundwater. What exists of a groundwater system up there has no connection to the groundwater basin down here. So it would not be possible for there to be any chemicals in the groundwater down here. And not only in regards to well integrity and the way that the well is built, and the way the job is conducted, the depth at which the job is conducted, and a whole variety of things. DOGGR has the strictest well integrity rules in the United States. In regards to chemicals used, I could give you names, but they wouldn't mean anything. But, you know, a hydraulic fracturing job is about 95%, we're not even gonna, well, anyways, it's about 95% water, glue, sand, and a tiny bit of chemicals. The particular job that was done, I don't have that sheet in front of me, but it is available from Frac Focus, and you can look it up there.
Just to answer the question, could you give us some of those names of the chemicals, just for reference?
Let me look, but you know, not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for the terminal company and the general, if there's any comment. Please describe the trucks and drilling equipment impact on the streets and highways of this area, how much congestion, how much dirt and noise, and the environmental impact to this area.
Okay, so let's talk about traffic. Traffic will be studied thoroughly by the county in whatever environmental document they choose to incorporate for this project. The short-term disturbance of a drilling rig moving, it would be 1 day moving up there. It is a wide load truck, probably about 15 trucks. It depends on the drilling rig, it depends on the style of the rig and how it's moved. But it would be a wide load. Then other than that, that's a short-term disturbance. The normal long-term disturbance would remain just about the same in terms of pickup trucks, employees, contractors. We expect maybe in total increase if the whole project were built out over 6 years, 5 to 7 additional trucks, heavy trucks per week.
Thank you. Again, for terminal. Regarding the original permit for well, I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly, quotation oil Aliso 11, I'm assuming that's a drill number. What was the original permit for when you first got it permitted? And also, what other permits did you get for that same well after that, and what did you do with that well?
Okay, well, the original permit, and this is the standard Division of Oil and Gas and Geothermal Resources permit process for any well, for any well in the state of California. You apply for the permit to drill. After you have the entitlements, apply for the permit to drill. You drill the well. You then apply for additional work. At that point in time, in 2011, Dogger did not have a separate well stimulation permit process like they do now. I think that's probably the answer people are looking for. I really encourage you to go to the Division of Oil and Gas. Just Google Dogger, D-O-G-G-R. You will find a ton of information there. It's very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Again, for terminal. Assuming the drilling is okay, what will you do for the community? Echoing the previous question. More specifically, contribute to the schools. What?
Well, as I said before, I mean, it is, you know, that was a mistake on our part, and we're definitely willing to talk and entertain that. I think, would be more willing to focus on the fire department and some other things. Of course, we do contribute taxes and that type of thing, but I would be more, I'm willing to entertain discussions on that. Thank you.
Okay, again for Mr. Combs, no, you already answered this. The question was, what is the closest location of the well to the nearest house? You said 1.65 miles. Yes. Are there any existing wells above well above locations on any Porter Ranch property? I think they're asking any wells close to any Porter Ranch property.
So the existing distances are, give me a second. See my distance sheet. Okay, from our existing operations, the closest point is also via Urbino at 1.2 miles. To give a little bit of scale and reference, Our tank farm is 1.7 miles away from the school where we are right now. And it's 2.2 miles from Castle Bay Elementary School.
Thank you. There's a second part to that question. Will there be slant drilling? I'm not sure if that's different from horizontal drilling.
Slant drilling is largely like horizontal drilling. May have a bit more, they kind of what they're talking about for Offer Hermosa and that type of thing. And that again is a long reach drill, multiple miles. That is not what is occurring here. These are conventional straight drilling to the greatest extent possible.
Okay, thank you. Changing it up, back to Mr. McCarthy. Other than CTAC approval, does regional planning review and approve any other portions of the development, i.e. geological impact, subsurface groundwater, impacts to downstream facilities if the wells are slant drilled below existing homes? Precisely what is the application asking for? Two-part question.
Well, I think we've described the 3 wells that they're proposing. We would be evaluating all of those issues, geology and water, and potential impacts on that. And again, when there's this other, we send out to other county agencies before we distribute to the public, but when we distribute to the public, we then begin to send it out to state and federal agencies as well. So the Regional Water Quality Control Board would get a copy of the whatever environmental document it is, and they would be asked to comment. Do you think this is an adequate evaluation that has been made, or could it be strengthened in some way? And they would be invited to comment. So the Regional Water Quality Control Board, other agencies would be invited to comment. And of course, we would send it out to Dogger as well.
Yes.
Sorry, I feel that I really do need to address that. There has been some misrepresentation and kind of erroneous information put out there about this. We are in no way drilling below anybody's home. We are in no way producing currently below anybody's home, nor will we be drilling in the future below anybody's home. We are on the north side of the ridge and drilling towards the north.
One of the contacted agencies will also be the City of Los Angeles they'll have an opportunity to review impacts to the city's infrastructure, roads, transportation, etc.
And just let me make it clear. As I said at the outset, you're all residents of the City of Los Angeles. The County of Los Angeles will be conducting the public hearing process, but you are equally welcome to come before that process. You can come in and testify with the same standing as a resident of the unincorporated areas.
Yeah, absolutely. They're your constituents of the County of Los Angeles on behalf of the supervisor, just the same as your constituents for Councilmember Mitch Englander. So from our perspective, there is no difference here. And we'll also make sure that the neighborhood council is notified when the public is notified. That'll probably be one of the quickest ways to get noticed.
Great, thank you. For the terminal company, it is our understanding that there is a significant natural gas storage area, yes there is, near your wells. Any potential danger from fracking near that storage site? So you're not going to frack?
Fracking is not proposed for this project.
Let's say drilling then.
There is no danger. If there was a danger, I'm not even sure how to. There is no danger. I mean, the gas company would not let us operate. We would not be there. Oil and gas production would not be going on if there was a danger.
Thank you. Again, for thermal company, when the drilling starts, will it be ongoing 24/7? How will drilling noise be mitigated? And emissions monitoring for SO2 and other gases, will it be conducted? How will it be monitored?
Good question. No, that's a great question. When the first well would be drilled, that particular operation would go on for 24 hours a day until it's completed. That particular site is 1.7 miles away from the closest home. There would be absolutely no noise impact. In regards to emissions, emissions are controlled on site. AQMD has authority over that, and we take emissions control seriously.
Is there a hotline? I know you touched on this, but is there a hotline established or any plans to establish a hotline for communications?
Thank you for asking that question as well. Two things. We do have a community hotline. I'll give you a chance to get a pen and paper. 562-773-7242. That goes directly, no matter what time of day, I'll get a message in my inbox, my email inbox on that. We also are setting up a project website, northalisoproject.com. Should be up in about 2 or 3 weeks. You can also contact me directly through our existing website, termoco.com, termoco.com. I've had some great conversations with people from the community that have called me, and I do appreciate you all reaching out to us.
Okay, this leads to the next question, in a way. How are we going to be guaranteed that environmental problems such as seepage into groundwater and venting of toxic gases into the air won't occur?
I want to touch again on well integrity in California. California has the strictest well integrity laws in the country. There are multiple layers of cement and steel casing that go through and protect groundwater. There is no usable groundwater resource up there that connects with the basin. And also in regards to toxic gases, we check these sites daily, twice daily as a matter of fact. We have quarterly air monitoring inspections, and AQMD comes up there on a regular basis as well. We take safety seriously, and any issue would cause us to shut down immediately. Not going to jeopardize the health of my guys or anybody else.
Thank you. What insurance are you required to pay for this area for any disasters caused by your proposed project and ongoing operations? We would all feel safer if a major insurance company backed its safety with adequate funds.
That's an interesting question, and I mean, it's a good question too, because I mean, we all, with public projects, we think about that. Okay, Termo has, and honestly, not a question I anticipated. So, Termo has bonding with Dogger, Division of Oil and Gas Geothermal Resources. We have very large coverage with Chubb, a international insurance carrier, and they are extremely proactive. They come out and visit our sites to make sure that all risks are being mitigated, because quite obviously, as your insurance agent, they don't want to be losing any money or spending any money. And we take their recommendations seriously and work with them closely. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. Again, for the Termo company, how many barrels of oil do you expect to get from this new area? Will you stimulate the wells in an attempt to enhance production? Are the wells horizontal, vertically? You already answered that. Yeah, the first part of the question, how many barrels of oil do you expect to get from this new area?
I really can't say with any certainty how that may be. We have wells up on the hill that produce anywhere from 14 barrels to 85 barrels a day. There's no plans to stimulate the wells in the context of Senate Bill 4. You never know what you're going to get until you get there.
Can existing well operation or idle well rework, redrill be modified? Want to know what happens after drilling of the new well.
For any rework or modification of a well, you do need to go back to Dogger.
For the supervisor's office, is there any reason why an EIR should not be required before Termo can drill above our homes?
We have to allow the planning department to conduct its initial assessment to determine if VIR is needed. And the supervisor's office weighing in at this time would be inappropriate. We have to allow planning staff and Paul to do his job to determine what level of review is needed.
And again, for the supervisor's office, could you provide, this might be difficult, but line by line, requirements of the CUP, the C cup that Permo is applying for?
I'm going to give that to Paul. We kind of went through that earlier.
Right.
I don't want to take up a lot of time going through that, but Paul, if you want to.
Well, what we discussed at the beginning, of course, with the procedures, in terms of requirements, we have what we call conditions that are imposed on the case. And those conditions can be have to be approved by the Planning Commission. That could be a wide variety of conditions relating to some of the issues we've had here. For example, the hotline. We might require them to post a sign at the front gate with a phone number on it. There'll be a variety of conditions that we could impose. And then, that's within the case itself. Then we have a mitigation program within the, if it were to be a mitigated negative deck or an EIR, those conditions would be called the mitigation monitoring program. And that'd be could be a wide variety of conditions relating to potential issues relating to air, water, safety, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. This next question, I believe it's regarding SB4, but it's not worded that way, so I'll just ask it to be sure. When will CS Bill 4 need to be signed, and is it the governor that needs to sign?
SB4 is already law. It was signed last year. It is going through the process right now. It doesn't need any signatures. It's just going through Dogger and getting sifting through all of the public comments and setting those regulations.
Okay. Another question for Ms. Gonzalez. What are the notification requirements to nearby residents after the initial well permit is issued? Maybe Mr. McCarthy is willing to know.
Well, as indicated earlier, the state legislation does require some notification prior, and we do prior to the public hearing. But there's no, at the county level, there's no notification after that. It would be notification of the hearing process, notification of the availability of the EIR.
Thank you. For Termo, were the wells that were fracked on the other sides, were the wells that were fracked on the other side of the ridge line? North of the ridge line?
Is the question, will the wells be fracked?
No, that were fracked before. Were they existing?
Our existing wells are on the top of the ridge and on the south side of the ridge line.
Okay, again, for the Termo company, it is my understanding that there is a significant natural, no, I'm sorry, we already answered that question, I apologize. When does the water use come from, and where does the water use come from? And in this time of drought, how much is used?
It's a good question, and seriously, I mean, water conservation and water control is definitely very serious to everybody. The water for drilling does come from the municipal water supply. I know. For cementing, to ensure cement integrity, we have to use very clean water. We and everybody in our industry is looking very hard at being able to use more recycled water and to be able to recycle what water we produce with our oil.
Thank you. Do you have oil storage tanks on this site? If so, are they lined to prevent seepage into the soil?
That's a good question. A couple of years ago, Division of Oil and Gas Geothermal Resources passed AB 1960 regarding tank testing and integrity and updating of our facilities. So we do have production tanks. You can't see them from down here, but we do have some production tanks up there. They are all contained within cement. They all have leak detection below the tanks. And then the tanks are visually inspected on a regular basis as well. Each tank was tested thoroughly, and where necessary was either replaced or lined.
Okay. Mr. McCarthy, how long are these ERR drafts usually? I think they're asking for the volume.
In terms of how long
In
it
terms of
takes to...
pages, I think that's what they're asking.
I would say normally, in terms of trying to process it, it would at least 9 to 12 months, if I understand the question correctly.
How about in length? How many pages usually? Just in case, I'm not sure exactly what they're asking.
I have one that I'm going through, which is 9,000 pages. So
It'd be a big file.
we've had EIRs where you have to get a large cart, larger than typical grocery cart to carry the entire document. So they can be voluminous.
That's not gonna be.
We'll save public comment for after. Thank you. To Ms. Gonzalez, the language of the sheet is unclear and confusing. In January 2014, it says it has passed, so is it law or not? And why does it say, quote, when and if? Also, $25 per day is not a lot for an oil company.
Again, it passed in 2013, it got signed September 30th of 2013, and it became law January 1st of 2014. And as of January 1st, the emergency regulations went into effect. And again, those were groundwater testing, neighbor notification, and public disclosure of chemicals, well history, and location online. And that you can actually find on the Dogger website. And again, if you Google Dogger, D-O-G-G-R, you will definitely find that it's going to be the first link that pops up. So that's what's actually happening. On July 1st of next year, 2015, the new regulations, and all companies must comply with the new regulations that will be in place by then. So July 1st, 2015 is the final deadline for new regulations and the final regulations.
Great, thank you. And for Mr. Combs, 2 questions. Are you a family member of the family that owns the terminal? Yes. And second question, even if fracking is not directly proposed, will the contract permit for potential future fracking in Porter Ranch?
Yes, my great-grandfather founded Dermo in 1933, and my father is CEO. And I've worked for the company for about 10 years, and it's certainly an honor to be involved with the company, and we treat our people like family. In regards to the permit from the county, no, it does not allow hydraulic fracturing or other well stimulation techniques. That's why you have to go to Dogger and comply with Senate Bill 4.
Here's an interesting question. How will this affect the worth of my house? Are you willing to purchase it?
This came up at the April 1st meeting, and it is a good question. I live a half mile from the Seal Beach field. I live 7/10 of a mile from our own wells in Seal Beach. I think that neighborhood down there is very nice. There's an active oil field in Huntington Beach next to a very nice neighborhood. There is active production in Beverly Hills. I do not believe in any way that a project on the north side of the ridge that's out of sight, out of mind, will in any way negatively affect your property values.
Okay. I have a question for Ms. Rosalba Gonzalez. Is it true that SB4 requires notification of fracking exercising only to 1,500 feet from wellhead? I believe you touched on this. And only after the permit is issued? In other words, no residents are 1,500 feet from wellhead. If so, we won't be notified?
Again, the obligation of the companies to issue the notification to the within 1,500 feet, but that will actually get around. I mean, it's part of their duty by Dogger, so it's part of the requirements. And neighbors include community organizations and anyone affected by the fracking that they will do. And that's part of getting the permit, not after they get the permit.
Okay, thank you. And this will be the last question of the evening. Oil and gas industry has been heavily subsidized according to many sources. Has Termo enjoyed the benefits of such subsidies in the past, and is Termo currently being subsidized or incentivized?
You chose to save that one for last. Some people call them subsidies, some people call them tax breaks. I think that's a discussion for another day. Termo does not receive any direct assistance or subsidies or cash payments in any way from the government. That's a subsidy. We do not receive anything like that.
All right, thank you very much. If any of you have any closing statements, we'd love to hear it at this time. If not, we will go to public comment.
On behalf of Supervisor Antonovich, thank you all for taking time out of your busy nights to be here today to hear this presentation. By no means does this mean this will be the end of it. And then if there are any lingering questions or concerns, you're welcome to call our office. Again, we're on the corner of Topanga Canyon and Plummer, and the phone number is 818-993-5170. And thank you for taking the time.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Sean? So we have, okay, so we're going to have you come up and use this microphone to be able to make your public comment. Sean is timekeeper. You have 2 minutes to talk. You have a 1 minute, 30 second, and please conclude. All right. Call the first person up.
First we have, I'm going to butcher this name, I apologize, Lou Chahinian. Is Lou still here? Next we'll go to Isabel Corriente. Nope. Mr. Matt Pacuco.
Yep.
Thank you. So Ralph did disclose that they have done fracking up there in the past on that well. That was my question about that, at least so well. But basically, the requirements after they get the initial well that they're trying to get now radically drop as far as any kind of permit seeking and notification. They have many wells up there that originally were conventional drilling way back, or even conventional drilling recently, that they've had reworked. Like Ralph said, they can be reworked into all sorts of things. And all the other stimulation, extreme stimulations. On June 25th, 2014, about 6 weeks ago, one of their other wells up there was approved for acidization for oil production. And that one, I believe, is a lot closer than Aliso and than this new project. So basically, they can do a lot of stuff after they get this permit very easily. And as far as SB4, I've read SB4, clearly states that notification is only within 1,500 feet of the wellhead. There's nobody living up there, and they don't gotta notify anybody. So, you might wanna check that, ma'am. Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say? Oh, we have more public
We
comment?
do have a couple more public comments. Okay, we have next Miss Rosemary Jenkins.
Good evening. I'm concerned, among other things, with the health issues. There's clear evidence from a variety of studies that people in our area and tangential areas are suffering from migraine headaches, nosebleeds, asthma, bronchial problems that sometimes lead to heart issues. And I want to know what your plan is to help those people and what your plan is to prevent further such contamination to the public. And as for SB4, I know I was working with a friend, but one of the things that was taken out was allowing the public to know the percentages or proportions of the different chemicals. And that's something that's very important so that doctors will know how to diagnose and treat. If the SB4 does say they have to tell you what chemicals are used, but not the percentages. So that's also very important. If you could, Mr. Combs, address both issues, I'd appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We also have Ms. Carol Hart.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight because this issue is new to me and I don't know enough about it, and I really appreciate this opportunity to learn more. I had another question for Ralph, and I know it's not a question, but I would just like to say that I feel very happy that you answered my question the way you did about not receiving government subsidies, so thank you for that. And I'm also looking to the future and toward more sustainable energy alternatives. And I wanted to say that I would encourage your company to invest some of your profits into sustainable, renewable energies as some other oil companies like Warren Buffett and others have done. We'd really like to see that here in our local area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We also have Mr. Grant Abbott.
Hello. The gentleman from Termite said that there's no plan to do fracking, and that at least some of the wells that he's drilled have produced between 15 and 80 barrels per day. It sounds to me like there's scavenger wells, and scavenger wells are all over California. In fact, I think he said that he lived near some down there in Long Beach. I was wondering if that's true. And then finally, another question. It just so happens that my son is a graduate of the California Maritime Academy, and he worked on oil tankers for about 5 or 6 years, and they go up to Valdez, and they bring these oil tankers down the coast, and half the time he was the third mate or the second mate, within a few miles of the coast. And so you have somebody that's maybe 23, 24, 25 years old, directing that ship in the middle of the night, and it seems to me it's as dangerous or more dangerous than what you're talking about. Any comment?
It's just public comment.
Thank you very much. We have 2 more public comment speakers. Next is Kyoko Ibino.
Hi, you said that you're not going to do the fracking, but also are you going to do the acidizing as well, or other type of stimulation method to inject chemicals to extract oil, more oil? I want to know about that, and if there is any acidizing activity going on into the existing well, or is there any wastewater to be disposed in the site, not like taken out from the site? I need to know that, and what kind of chemical you guys use for acidizing, if you guys do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have Ms. Kendi Kim.
Hello. First, I just wanted to thank Mr. Combs for showing up. I think it shows me that you consider it important enough to come here personally and not send like someone else. So I appreciate that. So I wanted to address our stakeholders. I also wanted to, you talked about integrity and the desire to do the right thing as being something important, as something that was important in your company. And I wanted to say that we also need to have more integrity and a desire to do the right thing as community members of Porter Ranch. I think we need to be more aware and more involved in our global community. And there might be reasons we should think about why fracking and oil drilling and things like that are relevant to our community. We drive too much, we don't carpool enough. We're not always aware of the actions that have on our community. We can't continue to live and think as we currently do. Some of the questions that we asked, I thought were maybe a little bit, a little bit on the selfish side. And I think that maybe we have to change, and we shouldn't do it alone. We have to do it together.
30 seconds.
What else was there? And also, we already do a lot of things that cause health hazards to ourselves. So before we, want to point fingers and say, what are you doing to cause harm to us? I think that, there's little things that we can do so that we can speak more forcefully when we come and want companies to listen to us and care about us. We should care about ourselves. Okay, sorry. Oh, and Terma was here because the world we make makes it necessary and useful for them to have to be here. So we should think about that.
Thank you.
I actually missed one last card. One final speaker, Mr. Alex Porter.
Thank you very much. So I found an article today in prep for this meeting. Oh, sorry. I found this article today in prep for this meeting from October 9, 2012. Just to quote a little piece of it, and I'll follow up with a comment. To counter public perception of the industry as greedy, irresponsible, faceless corporation, Combs said it's necessary for oil producers to better engage the communities where they operate. That's why Termo launched a charitable giving committee which focuses on issues like hunger, poverty in Long Beach. The company also engages in youth development programs and environmental conservation. And this ethic dates back a long time, Combs said. For example, Termo once offered loans for employees to make a down payment on a home. We have, this in quotes, we have a deep respect for the role we play in providing energy to society, Combs said. We're trying to do more to support the community and the city that has given us so much. So this is, I read this and I was really moved by this. I got a little, verklempt about this. So I was surprised when you said earlier that you've been up here since 1989 and you've done nothing. And so, well, that's a really great comment to make as you're trying to get our consensus to allow this, these additional wells. You can appreciate our potential skepticism. So I think that going forward, there's a meeting in September. I'm not looking for an answer now, but I know you're gonna think about it. And while the fire department is fantastic, you're sitting in a school right now that's grossly underfunded. There's another elementary school that's grossly underfunded. There's all kinds of needs in the community. I think to me it's a non-starter to consider this unless you come up with a plan specifically to address the needs of the community and how this benefits the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. If there's any closing statements from the panelists?
It sounds like there's some things that people would like me to address.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. It's up to you.
Okay, starting with Matt's comment, there is no acidization going on. It's certainly not in the context of SB4 right now. We may be doing a minor well clean out or something of that nature. Also, in regards to Matt's comment that once we get a permit, it gets easier and easier and easier. That is not true. Every well has the same rigorous permitting requirements imposed by Dogger. Doesn't matter how many you have, 1 or 100, they all have the same rigorous permitting requirements. In regards to the health issues, this is something When I first read about that, it was obviously a concern. I want to address just a couple things. The prevailing wind in the valley tends to go from west to east. I don't believe that our facilities at the distance that they are away could be causing any ill health effects down here in Porter Ranch. However, and this goes to Kyoko's comment as well, when Kyoko addressed her concerns to me on April 1st, the next day, I contacted an environmental scientist, an environmental firm, and since that time have been looking into air quality issues and what could potentially be causing the health effects that people seem to be having. And Kyoko's specific concern was odor that evening. I only found out later through a newspaper article that she had some health concerns as well. I have been looking into those.
In addition to Supervisor Antonovich serving on the Board of Supervisors, he's one of the county representatives on the South Coast Air Quality Management District, AQMD. And AQMD has a very active presence in terms of air monitoring at the oils, both the proposed and both the existing. When we saw that daily news article, I immediately contacted the neighborhood council and some of the various elected officials that represent Porter Ranch, saying, have we ever once received a concern or comment regarding health effects from the facility? And we had not. That being said, the supervisor contacted AQMD to kind of look into AQMD's records to determine if any violations had occurred or anything that we need to be concerned with, and we're still waiting for AQMD's response on that.
I would encourage anybody that has concerns to call the AQMD, please. Also, the question about percentage of chemicals. Ma'am, those are available. The percentage of chemicals are specifically listed on Frac Focus for any stimulation job, okay? I personally agree with the question about the renewables. I certainly look forward to long-term transition to that. Grant, you had a question regarding scavenger wells. I'm not sure if you mean what we call sometimes stripper wells.
Low production.
Low production. Well, 80 barrels a day is not low production. That is a very, very good well. I mean, we're not North Dakota or the Texas Eagle Ford area. I also agree that the risk is less to producing oil locally rather than having it tanked in from across the world. The majority of the oil imported into California comes from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Ecuador. I definitely would think that it would be safer to have that here than by ship or rail. Kyoko, again, looking into your concerns, I want to encourage you to follow up with the AQMD and the other air quality specialist whose number I gave you. Acidization or anything else in the context of SB4 does require public notification and does require a permit. And in conclusion, kind of the think globally, act locally point there was pretty good too. Thank you.
I want to let you know that Alexandra is here. She's from Food and Water Watch, and they have some meetings coming up, so if you guys want to check in with her on any ongoing meetings or some community involvement you can have, that's Alexandra, so you can check in with her. Also, we want to thank our speakers once again. They were amazing. You guys were amazing. So very grateful. We have some other agenda items we're actually postponing until the next meeting, and we are adjourning this meeting so that we can spend time with you stakeholders if you've got any questions for us. Also, Eric, this was he was newly elected, and this is his first time to chair a committee, and he and the other committee members have just done an amazing job. So thank you again. We're here if you've got any questions. Alexandra's over there, and then thank you again.